how many of those of you know will have with each other. What we want to work on is who's got probably reasonable elbows. You're young. You're young. You're younger than me. Let's call it young. Okay, so the figure 4 does a couple things. It cranks the shoulder and it cranks the wrist when it's done correctly. If it's not done correctly, really, it just cranks the shoulder. Okay. So some people call this a key lock. So it's got 2 names if you want to look it up on YouTube. Not a secret lock of the ninjas, right? This is a very well-known lock. You do it in MMA, they do it in all sorts of stuff. Okay. The key here is that the way I teach it is that you want to grab above the wrist. Okay, that enables you to get a wrist crank into it. You can also grab below the wrist, okay, and then you don't get the wrist crank. But if you can get the wrist crank, you might as well take the wrist crank, okay, because it causes more pain and it's more effective. Okay, so we're gonna start with one hand on the hand, in the back of the hand, one hand at the elbow. Okay, and then we're gonna use this as our starting position. Okay, what you're gonna do, the idea is that he doesn't like me holding his arm, so he pulls in, right? From this position, I can easily go into the figure 4. So the idea is, again, with locks, is that you don't go against the grain. So if he's doing this, I don't fight for an arm bar. That's ridiculous. He's trying to pull in. I don't try to straighten him back out. I just let him do that, and then I fold him up. Okay, so and we'll go into the series later, but the idea is one hand is on kind of the lower bicep in the elbow, right? And he pulls in here, and I'm going to let it fold in. Okay, then I'm going to push my hand through the key lock, the hole, and grab my own forearm. Okay, then I'm going to insert his elbow into my shoulder and lock it in. Okay, then I bury my head. Okay, if I don't bury my head, he's gonna pop me in the head. Pop me in the head. Pop me in the head with that. Right. So if I'm here, right, and I'm right. So what I want to do, and this helps lock it in, bury my head here so that it's hard for him again. And I just okay. So you have to be careful, right, that you don't injure the wrist. Okay? I like my wrist. I like the use of my hand. I'm imagining Drew, who makes a living out of using his arms, wants to keep it. So you don't want to over crank on this, which is easy to do, particularly if you get anxious and you want to perform and you want to like get it right. Don't. Okay. So, right, I've got his hand, I've got his elbow, I fold it in, right, and think of you like you're touching his own shoulder, right? Then I take my left hand, right, and I grab my right forearm. Okay, then I pull it in. Okay. Again, it can be done here, like this, but I don't get the satisfaction of ripping all the tendons in his hand out. Again, I've got a key lock in here, but it's just not as effective. You don't have as much leverage. He's not in pain, right? You want leverage and pain.
You can make this person hit themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Right? But if I'm up here, right, and I'm bearing down, right, even just this lock sucks. So the other key here is that I want this locked into the crook here. Okay. If it's not, right, then it just slips out and you've locked the lock. Right. So you need to get this again pressed in here so that it can't slip. The higher up it is, the better. You don't necessarily want it up all the way up here, but if it's low down, it can slide. Okay. So that we all have this like little pit right here in our shoulder blade. That's where we want to sink their elbow. Here. Okay. For those of you, and I'll have you team up with again, people who know the key lock, right? Is that you gotta remember, right? So we went from here Boom, he straightened his arm, right? To here, as he starts to pull it back here, now I'm into here. Okay, so now I'm into a key lock, okay? So those of you, and we'll just pair up the advanced students with each other, is you can, one, I used to say, work for a couple bit on the key lock, right? And then try to get through the flow section of it. Got it? So once you can pull. And figure four, you say it's in name. Some people call it key lock. I usually refer to it as the figure four because it looks like a four. Right, there's your four right there. Four. Right, that's why it's called a figure four. It does you know if you don't grab your arm, right? You don't have as much leverage. You can grab here and pin it, but as you start to grab your arm, you start to cinch it in. Okay, so you grab that form and squeeze in. Okay, give it a go. Over here. Okay, you guys are gonna work together. You can observe and work in. Okay, so. Oh, I want to pick up ball. Right? So grabbing his hand. Right? You're watching. At the top of his bicep.
Bicep over here. It's more fun.
It is
more fun.
touch your shoulder.
Do you want to
right?
break one?
This left hand just comes through and grabs my forearm.
That's
Give a hand, right?